book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to do the twice a year tag for the second time this year. This book tag was created by Beck at Beckle Books. I will link her YouTube channel down in the description so you can check her out. Go subscribe to her. She made a very cool tag. This is my second year doing it, and this is the second time I'm doing it this year. And pretty much the twice a year book tag was designed for you to check in with your reading goals and in your reading so far this year in April and August. And right now, it's August. I cannot believe we've already made it to August, but we're here. I love check-in videos. I like an excuse to look back and plan. I mean, pretty much majority of my content is that if I'm not doing like some random topic. So I guess without further ado, let's get straight into these tag prompts and let's see whether or not things have changed, if they've progressed, and if there are still things that I need to accomplish. So prompt number 1 of the twice a year tag is, how many books do you reckon you will read this year? And I am going to keep my answer the same for this one. I think I am going to read at least 300 books. Look, if something terrible happens sometime between now and the end of the year, then maybe that's not achievable. However, if I'm keeping my momentum up, I know I can accomplish 300 books. Easy. That being said, I might just challenge myself to get to 325 or 350, but I know that is a maniac move. But at this point of the year, I'm reading a lot. As I'm filming this video right now, I've completed 200 books. So I reckon 300 is definitely doable, but 325 to 350 is possible at this point. However, that is only doable if I don't get into a reading funk, slump, depression. Technically, I have clinical depression anyway, and I read to cope with it. However, if I experience some sort of mental block that stops me from reading, then okay, that's understandable. But I reckon if I don't, I could make it. That all being said, the answer is still 300 because I'm not going to overwork myself. I'm just gonna have fun. Prompt number 2 is, have you made a specific reading goal or target that you need to check in or keep track of? So as I mentioned in the first part of this twice a year book tag, I have a few challenges I have set for myself personally, and I'm not too sure if I mentioned in the April portion of this check-in that I am participating in the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge. Yes, I am participating in the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge of 2023. I decided this completely last minute. I reckon that I decided this in April or May of this year. I know that I read at least 3 to 4 months worth of books for me to like make the decision because I had completed majority of the challenge prompts from just reading the books that I read in the first 3 to 4 months of this year. I am so sorry about those birds. Those birds are not shutting up. So I decided to participate in this challenge purely because I had achieved majority of the challenges and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna hit full send. I am going to complete all 50 of these challenges. And how is that going? It's going pretty well. I reckon I could be completed the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge by Australian spring. So somewhere between September to November, because one of the challenges is to read a book that comes out in spring 2023. And yes, of course, that could be interpreted as a Northern Hemisphere pick, but I'm gonna choose a Southern Hemisphere pick because I'm gonna spread out the challenge a little bit more. I could complete the challenge otherwise. I really could. I have the other books like ready to go. As I'm filming this though, I believe one of the books isn't out yet, so I know that I could complete one of the challenges in August/September when I read that new release, but there's one final book that I will have to read, and that's the spring 2023 prompt, and that will most likely be finished the challenge. I still have a few other prompts to go, but I know that I can complete those prompts now. With the spring 2023 one, I will have to wait until spring 2023. And in terms of the 12 Friends Recommend Me 12 Books challenge, as I'm filming this video, I only have 2 more to complete. One of them being The Goblin Emperor and the other one being Inuyasha Volume 1. As I'm filming this right now, I have officially completed The Secret History and it was exhausting, but more to come on that in my wrap up. I did not think that I would accomplish this. I did read a bunch of books that I never thought I would ever read, and I do have to thank my friends for participating by giving me some book recommendations. Some of those experiences being really good and some of those experiences not being the best, but I I still enjoyed participating in this challenge. I don't know if I'm going to do it for future years, and if I'm going to do it for future years, I'm probably going to ask people to abstain from recommending me really dense books. Maybe I could do a romance edition, who knows. The 23 books I want to read in 2023. Have I been keeping track of that? I don't think I have. I like making that list for fun. I like making that list to remind me of the books that I have outstanding on my TBR that I would like to read within the year, but then I get distracted by new releases. I am not so hard on myself when it comes to this TBR. That's just like a personal, here's what I have on my shelves and here's what I want to read for the year. But yeah, I need to actually look back at that video to see if I am on track there. Oh, the self-destructing TBR. I've been doing pretty okay with this. I have not been as consistent with this TBR as the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge and the 12 Friends Recommend Me 12 Books Challenge, but I think with those two eventually getting out of the way and being complete, I reckon I can focus on this TBR a lot more. That being said, I have prioritized this TBR this year more than I did last year. Last year, I didn't even care to make like a wrap-up for the self-destructing TBR books. Like, I really just did not care about those books that much. Whereas with this TBR, I care about these books to some capacity. So some of them I have completed, some of them I have unhauled or I've placed in an unhaul pile so far. I am very much looking forward to continuing on with this TBR and to, fingers crossed, read some books that I love and to save them, because some of them I've already unhauled, and it's kind of good to get those out of the way, but at the very same time, I kind of just want to find an unexpected favorite from that TBR pile, you know? Oh, I also have my 5-star predictions list. The 12 Friends Recommend Me 12 Books Challenge and the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge have really taken my attention. I totally forgot about some of these TBRs, at least within the last few months. I have really zoomed in on the two challenges that I kind of gave myself last minute. So I am really hoping to just get those out of the way so I can really focus in on the list I made at the very beginning of the year that I fully intended to follow this year. It's just ridiculous. I set so many goals for myself and then I take on new challenges. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I think the final one I put on this list is my series TBR, and that one I believe is on track. There are a few intimidating series that I have on the list that I reckon I could accomplish. I might not accomplish them all, but I want to achieve majority of them. So yeah, I guess there are a bunch of reading goals and challenges and TBRs I still have to stick to and commit to, and I reckon those might be the reasons why I will exceed my read count for the year. Prompt number 3 is, how many 5-star books have you read so far this year? I don't remember the number I had for my previous video, but at the moment it's currently sitting at 27 books. Those include some rereads as well. I will mention some 5-star reads that I did not mention in my previous part that I posted in April. The rereads being Court and Charm by Tracy Wolff. Cherish is not on my 5-star reads list. I gave that one a 4 stars. I enjoyed Cherish and I reckon that it was a sweet finale. However, it did not have the intensity that Court had, and I was kind of hoping that it would top Charm in the romantic aspects and the Shadow Realm aspects. I was kind of a little bit sad about how the Shadow Realm was in Cherish, I think because one of our characters was forgotten in the Shadow Realm, and that made me so sad because I simply just wanted more references to what happened in Charm. That all being said, I still really enjoyed Cherish. I also was kind of devastated that some of the side characters were done dirty, not in a sense that Tracy treated them poorly. It's just we didn't really get to experience much of their growth and character development on page. We would just hear it from others. I don't know, that kind of irked me. That all being said, Court and Charm still hold up in my personal opinion. They are still 5-star reads, and revisiting the epilogue, like the first half of the epilogue in Court and the second half of the epilogue in Charm, oh my goodness, perfection. Now I'll go into the 5-star reads that weren't rereads, starting off with Can I Steal You for a Second by Jodi McAllister. This is the second book in the Marry Me Juliet series, and I absolutely adored this book. I inhale read it. It was so captivating. I read it within one sitting, just like Here for the Right Reasons. Both these books are so addictive, my goodness. However, I honestly didn't think that Here for the Right Reasons would be topped, and it was topped. Can I Steal You for a Second was amazing. I am obsessed, and I cannot wait for the third book in this series. I also read Marriage for One by by Ella Mays. This was the final Ella Mays book I needed to read in the lead up to her new release, and I still have not yet read her new release as I'm talking right now. I'm frustrated with myself, and I was trying to read her backlist in the lead up to her new release. How ridiculous is that? Because I did not read her new release. But Marriage for One just so happens to be my favorite book by Ella Mays. I reckon that it's a very perfectly paced book. I know that Ella Mays usually does like very sweet romances. This one just hit hard, it hit deep for me, and I think it's because I was in a marriage of convenience myself, and I love to see how the marriage of convenience trope was done in this book. It was just a very pleasant surprise for me. And then I gave 3 out of 5 Bergman Brothers books a 5 out of 5 stars, and they were 3 in a row. So the second, the third, and the fourth book, Always Only You, Ever After Always, and With You Forever. And my favorite out of the bunch is Ever After Always. That is Freya's story. I am obsessed with this one, and I think I love it so much because it is a kind of second chance romance that takes place within a marriage, and I reckon it was done absolutely perfectly. I absolutely adore the series, I adore these books, and I need everyone to get on the Bergman Brothers train. It is a perfect romance contemporary series, pretty much a rom-com series. It is so perfect, and I feel like so many people are sleeping on it. It was hyped at some point, and for some reason, no one's talking about it at the moment. This is where I bring the hype back up. Please, guys, read the Bergman Brothers series. You will not regret it. I mean, each book is different, and no, I did not love every one of the books. I reckon that some of the books were just like okay, but I adored majority of the series so far, and I reckon that I am really gonna love the 7th and final book as well. I just need more books in the series, even though there are 7 siblings. Like, can I have that, please, Chloe? Can I have that? And yes, of course, I gave Praise by Sarah Kate a 5 out of 5 stars. This is the first book in the Salacious Players Club. As I'm filming this video right now, I have not yet continued on with the series, and I really need to because Sash keeps telling me that the rest of the series is really good. And I also need to get to them because I reckon they're gonna be my thing. I met Sarah Kate. I told her how much Praise meant to me because I think that she started the series off in a pretty good way, and I love how she resolved a few things, and it's a great introduction to kink as well. And I told her I appreciated that, and she really thanked me for that comment. She said it was one of the nicest things she's ever heard about Praise, and that definitely did make my day at Babe. That was very sweet. I loved meeting her, and I want to continue to support her, so I want to continue to read the Salacious Players Club, and I want to read the other books that she's put out as well. But Praise was really good. I gave it a 5 stars. I was not expecting to give this one a 5 stars, but I did. And the next 2 books I gave a 5 out of 5 stars were books 2 and 4 in the Deliciously Dark Fairy Tale series by K.F. Breene. As I'm filming this video right now, this series is probably my favorite series of the year. My top favorite series could change at any point, but right now I'm celebrating it. I am obsessed with Nithane. He is my fictional bae. I adore him, and I loved books 2 and 4 so much because they added so much to the story. Book 3, however, was more of a bridging book because some of the main cast were in captivity, so it was like the bridging captivity book. And then book 4 was when everything went kaboom, you know? I have mentioned this before, but I will mention it again. It was not my favorite first book in a series, and I reckon that books 1 and 2 could have been somewhat combined. At least I just kind of wish that this book series was a trilogy, or it just could have been spaced out a little bit better. But I love this series for the most part. I adore books 2, 3, and 4, and I can't wait to see what K.F. Breene writes next, especially within this world, because she's teased it. And another 5-star book I read this year was Zodiac Aligned, which is the final book in the Zodiac Wolf series, another book series that I have become so obsessed with. If you are looking for a paranormal romance series that kind of reminds you of the teenage paranormal book series that you used to read, like Vampire Academy, what else? Like anything by Jennifer L. Armentrout, like the Lux series or like the Covenant Saga, the Zodiac Wolf series very much reminded me of those series, and it reminded me of my YA phase, except this is definitely a new adult series. It feels like YA as you're reading it because it definitely seems like a YA plot, but there's a little spice. So I would still categorize this as new adult, but I would recommend it for the nostalgic crowd. And yes, of course, volumes 3 and 4 of Lore Olympus, these were the 2 volumes I've read so far this year. They always get 5 out of 5 stars for me, unless of course something goes terribly wrong. These were just amazing in my personal opinion. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. As I'm filming this video, I have completed Divine Rivals, and it blew my mind. It is an incredible book. I adore it so much. I will talk about it more in my August wrap-up. Wow. I did not expect this to be a new favorite, but oh boy it is. And the final 2 5-star reads that I have read so far this year that I've got to mention are Seduced by Darkness and Crown of Darkness. So these 2 books are books 1.5 and 2 in the Dark Court Rising series by Beck McMaster. I recently read the series this month. I devoured all 4 books, or 3 books and novella, within 3 days. I became absolutely obsessed with this series in the week that I read them. I still am very much obsessed with them. And honestly, I don't love the 3rd book as much as I love books 1.5 and 2 because I reckon that the 3rd book could have focused more on the side characters. That all being said, I reckon that Beck McMaster is going to be working on some spin-offs following some of the characters within this world, but I adore this series so much and I need more people to read it. It is so good, and I'm really happy I took advantage of Beck McMaster's Babe order, where you could pre-order all the books for like 60 or 65 bucks, because if she didn't have that deal, I would have most likely not purchased those books and like got them signed and stuff. I would have most likely not added them to my collection and devoured them, but I devoured them. They're so good, and I highly recommend this series to those who love fantasy romance just as much as I do, because it really hits the spot. Like, if you are needing a good fantasy romance, this series is for you. It is perfect in terms of the way that it's balanced. It has an equal amount of fantasy world building as well as romantic aspects. There's some steam in there as well, but overall I just love the main couple and their journey, and I am just so in love with them. I can't stop thinking about them, and I would really appreciate it if everyone took the time to read this book series because it's so good. Prompt number 4 is a book that you own that you have not yet read. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I purchased the Illumicrate special edition of this book and its sequel, and I totally forgot that it was on my TBR, and I still have not yet read it. I've heard great things about this series. I've heard great things about Alex Stern, and I just need to read it, but I'm intimidated by the possibility of reading it because I heard a rumor that this is part of a 9-book series. I don't know how long this book series is going to go for. I really do want to start this at some point. I have heard good things about the first book, and I do want to get to it, and I honestly forgot that I had this on my TBR until recently, so that's why I thought it was fitting to add this book in to answer this prompt. Prompt number 5 is, do you want to reread anything within the next few months? So I believe I did mention in the first part of this check-in, in the April portion that is, that I wanted to reread the Bargainer series, but I wanted to reread it in its new form, its traditionally published form. It's pretty much the same story, but just with extensive story and edits. So I am looking forward to this one. I just have not yet done that, and I know that once I revisit the Bargainer series, I'm gonna fall into a massive book hangover because I love this book series so much, and I have a feeling that the experience I'm gonna have with the traditionally published editions is gonna be magical. So I'm excited for it, but I've been pushing it out. And secondly, I would like to reread Fourth Wing in the lead up to Iron Flame. I really enjoyed Fourth Wing, and I wanted to reread it as soon as I read it the first time, but I decided to hold off and wait until we get closer to Iron Flame, and thankfully Iron Flame is only coming out in November, so we do have a sequel sometime soon. I'm gonna reread Fourth Wing, hopefully sometime in October or November. And speaking of Fourth Wing, prompt number 6. What new release are you most anticipating for the second half of the year? And first of all, I would like to mention Iron Flame. It's gonna be exciting. I really don't know what's in store for the series, but what I do know is that something gets revealed at the end of the previous book, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things are gonna go. I'm hoping that there's some sort of romantic resolution when it comes to the main protagonist and the love interest, but I am very much looking forward to adding a new character onto the roster as well. And you know what? I also do have to mention Fall of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the first book in a new series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I totally forgot how nostalgic I feel while reading Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I recently read A Soul of Ash and Blood. I love that book. Even though, yes, it is a retelling of From Blood and Ash from Castiel's perspective, I still really loved that book, and I reckon I am going to love Fall of Ruin and Wrath a lot because I do feel somewhat nostalgic while reading Jennifer L. Armentrout sometimes. Technically, JLA is still a comfort author for me. I don't tend to agree with some of her writing choices, especially with The War of Two Queens. I think, if anything, after reading A Soul of Ash and Blood, I have like decreased my rating on that book, and I don't like it at all. However, I have enjoyed majority of her books so far. I also read the Covenant Saga at the very beginning of this year, and I adored it. I reckon that I should add Fall of Ruin and Wrath on my TBR. In fact, I have pre-ordered a few editions already. I'm kind of hoping that this is going to be a favorite because I've purchased a few editions, and if it's not a new favorite, I'm hoping at least it will be a new comfort read for me because I do love myself a good paranormal romance. And finally, prompt number 7. What book do you plan on picking up next, and do you think you'll rate it a 4 stars or above? I never usually talk about the next book I'm planning to read here, only because by the time this video goes up, I will have probably read it. So I'm just going to put a book that I have placed on my September TBR in the hopes that I will get to it. And I am definitely aiming to get to this one in September because I did mention this in my August TBR. I am kind of planning to make September Savage September because I'm trying to motivate myself to read the Savage Lands series, but I'm not talking about Savage Lands here because I've talked about that book series a lot on my channel and I have not yet read it, so I must stop talking about it and actually get to reading it. However, I decided to include the Savage and the Swan in that as well. I would love to read this in September. This is a Never Fantasy romance series. It's part of a companion series titled Fated Fae. And yes, I've already pre-ordered the Fae Crate exclusive editions of the first 2 books in the series, so I'm very much looking forward to receiving those, but I've not yet read The Savage and the Swan, and I reckon that if it's anything like Kingdom of Villains, then I will really appreciate it. So I'm hoping to get to this one in September, and I reckon I'm going to rate it a 4 stars or above because I loved Kingdom of Villains, and Kingdom of Villains was, I believe, a 4.5 out of 5-star read for me, so I reckon that this one will be somewhere around there. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the red heart emoji, and if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And I also have social medias. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.